Hello, good morning, viewers, and welcome to yet another edition of Fire Safety Matters. And we are coming to you live from the Fire Service TV at the headquarters, Cantonment, Accra. This is a program dedicated to talk a lot about fire safety issues confronting our citizenry. In fact, for the past 2+ months, we have been trying to delve deep into over 21 years ago, a document that was signed or enacted, that is LI 1724, to make sure that the service, the Ghana National Fire Service, becomes a regulator in how to implement these documents. We have the short-term and then the long-term projections when it comes to this document. In fact, today I'm pleased to be here with one of the people who were part of the enactment of this law, who were part of the promulgation of the law. We are going to confront them and ask them a lot of questions as to what needed or what went into the production of this or the enactment of this document, and also look at how best we can help by preventing unwanted fires to our citizenry. The document has people, the way the fire safety measures are supposed to be employed in various houses, and how the fire service is supposed to be a regulator when it comes to how for people to implement all those things in their buildings. Before I introduce my guests, let me go for a short commercial break, and when we are back, I'll introduce them to you. My name is Station Officer 1, Michael Walter Okain, and I'm your host for today.
I came across power safety technology. So I introduced that into our residents, who are more than 4,000. And over the period, they have testified how power safety technology have saved them when the need arises.
Power safety. Safety is our hallmark.
Well, viewers, you are welcome back from the short commercial break. I have the singular honor to introduce our guest for you. We are still privileged to have DCFO retired, that is the Deputy Chief Officer retired, Kwame Kwarteng, with us.
Thank you.
And then from the extreme end, we have Divisional Officer Grade 1, David Afo, also with us. You are welcome.
Thank you.
So, for the past week, we've been trying to look at the basic requirements in order to obtain fire certificate from the Ghana National Fire Service. And we've talked about so many things. Today, we want to look at, we are still on the topic, the suppression system. Now we are going to look at automatic suppression systems, and then why the need for automatic suppression systems. So let me start from Mr. Afo, as I choose to call him. So, what is an automatic suppression system?
Thank you. It is technical, but let me try my best to simplify it. When we say automatic suppression system, we are looking at a device or a system that can detect fire and extinguish at the same time.
Oh, okay. So it's a system that can
Or a
detect
device.
fire, and a device
A system or a device.
Device
There are two types. So I
that
offered
detects fire by itself
and then
suppresses it without any
human intervention.
human intervention. Oh, okay, that is good. But sir, who does the installation of these systems? That goes to
Okay.
Dr. Kwati.
Thank you, and then good morning to our viewers. You see, these are done by fire experts, and they are either fire consultants who does the designs for them, and then there's somebody who does the installation. It involves a lot of engineering calculations, and it depends on the kind of flooding system that or suppression system that you want to install. For instance, if you want to install an automatic sprinkler system, it requires that there's a lot of pipe work that must go in there. So you need a plumber certified and who understands. And then so I will be able to know the kind of pressure that the pipes will have to contain and the kind of outlets in the sprinklers that will have to operate at a certain temperature. So it is not an ordinary person. If you don't have any mechanical engineering background, you cannot install a sprinkler system. In the same way, if you want to have a total flooding system which deals with gases, they also passes through pipes from a cylinder that contains the gas, and then it is discharged at the nozzles within the building. So all this goes with calculations, because if you are not careful and you don't know how much volume, if it's a sprinkler, water sprinkler system, how much volume it will discharge and within the area, before you realize the whole building is flooded and you have increased the weight, and therefore the stability of the building has also changed. When it comes to those that use the gaseous one for IT rooms, if you don't know how to calculate to see the discharge rate and less than, it means when there's a problem, even the walls and the structures in there will give way. So it's not everybody who can install an automatic or a sprinkler system or total suppression system. They are done by experts, because if it does that and people die or it fails within the specified program that has been designed for, then he will be held liable. So it's an expert, an installer or a fire engineer who does the design for that person to implement. It's like somebody doing a design for a building, then he gets a contractor, then the contractor will hire his field men, workmen, and then he tells them, put this here, do this. At the end of the day, even though it was designed by the architect, it's the contractor and the subcontractors plus their workers that will put up execute the program. So that is how it is done.
Beautiful. Who or what premises do we say needs such automatic installations?
Before I answer that question, I want to add a little
to what?
Safety. Another automatic suppression system, he made mention of the gas suppression. Then there's another one which is the powder type.
Okay, so I would like to come to the types.
Okay.
But I want us to look at buildings that require...
Buildings that require are high-rise buildings.
High-rise buildings.
Yes. And then
when you say high-rise buildings, can you clarify it for us? Because I don't know. From a layman's perspective, what is a high-rise building?
A layman's perspective, any building that goes beyond 4 levels is a high-rise building. That is the classification in fire service.
And by the British standard, I know the Ghana National Fire Service is a British standard. Yes. So where does the ground floor start from?
Oh, with us, when you talk about floors, the one without any, you start from the ground floor. That is the ground floor. We have the next level, which is the first floor. And that one, the ground floor, is a single story.
It's a single story, yes.
2 levels, ground and first, is 2 story. Most often we get confused. So we prefer to use the levels instead of the stories.
The stories,
yes.
Okay, so we are now talking about story building that is above 4
so let's beyond. If you count from the ground level, the ground level is 1. First floor, second, third, fourth floor. Beyond 4th floor, you will need these installations.
But there are times we also go down there.
So the down one is a basement. That one also, you have a type of installation that you need to do that. Yes. Okay. You can equally install the sprinkler system over there. Yes.
So like I asked, what would necessitate the installation of an automatic suppression systems.
Yes, like Deputy just said, you need to do a lot of calculations. You need to know the use of the place is critical. The activities over there. Then you do some calculation. You need to know the floor area. Do some calculation. Like initially I said, in our last discussion, I explained the radius, the distance that the sensor can pick.
Exactly.
Equally, you can do same calculation with the sprinkler system. So that once you know the area, it gives you the number of balls that you need to install to. And the pipes also, there are some calculations that you need to do. From the wall, I mean from the basement or from the ground floor. I say basement because most often the water is installed at the basement. And from the basement, the pipe size is that's 100 millimeters, or one we say 4 inches. As it moves up, you reduce the sizes until it gets into them. The reason is, as you reduce the sizes, you are increasing the pressure. So there are some calculations that you need to do, and then you look at the length of the building and the number of pipes that you run in a particular building. That will let you know the number of balls and then the pressure level that you need to introduce.
Okay. Viewers, you can contact us, or you can share your views on our. We are streaming live on Facebook, so you can also contribute on our Facebook page. That is GNFS official. GNFS official. We are also live on other social media handles, and it's all GNFS official. So you can contribute to us, to this program. You can ask questions, and then we'll read them out. Okay. So yes, as you can see on the television, we have some high-rise buildings there, and we'll be looking at what went into those systems. What's that?
I wanted to add to this. You see, I'm sure the definition he gave sets for architects or in a special sense. You know, by the strict definition of a high-rise to a firefighter is any building that is beyond the reach of a fire appliance becomes a high-rise. So every tender, normal tender in every station has at least extension ladder. So if the extension ladder can go to the first floor, it cannot go to the second floor. Any floor that is above the reach of what the fire service had becomes a high-rise. So you can see that in Accra you have a hydraulic platform that can go to about 5th or 6th floor. After that it becomes a high-rise, but then there's a way that has to be protected. But if you go to a district that the tallest building there is three floors, you know, and then the fire engine there has an extension ladder that can go to the second floor. Then that building in that community, in the strict sense of firefighting principles, is a high-rise. And therefore, whoever will give the fire cover in that area, protecting that building, must begin to look at the sense, have the sense of seeing a building as a high-rise building. So in Accra, the definition
differs from when you go to the regions and the districts.
The districts and to our villages.
Exactly.
Is as the structure height depends on the facilities of a firefighting engine. So that's what I wanted to add.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Sir, with the fire service, when it comes to installations of these suppression systems, I know we are challenged as an institution, looking at the springing up of all these high-rise buildings. So what do we ensure, or do we ensure that all those buildings that are springing up now, they conform to the standards? And if there's any building that does not conform to the standard, what does the law say about it? I'd like Deputy to take this one.
Thank you. You see, the designs of the buildings determine whether it will be high-rise or not a high-rise. Currently, most these buildings that you are seeing around are being sponsored by some companies. Multinational companies. And what they do is that because of fire, they need an insurance cover. So they will tell you that we want this investment to be there for so many years, and therefore we require that the building is sprinkled. Currently, I'm assisting some company working on, it's just going about 6 floors, 3 basement floors, plus 5 floors. But they are sprinkling the whole building because the requirements of the investor says that, and the insurance company who is supporting requires that they must sprinkle the building. So they'll put that particular. So it depends on who is doing the project, who is investing in the project, and that will tell you that you should sprinkle the building or not sprinkle the building. But with the fire service, when it gets to your table, you don't look at what he has, but you look at the facilities you have and how you can fight the fire. Then you tell him, fine, by this height, you are sprinkling the building. But by this height, I also require that you sprinkle it because I don't have a TL that can get to that level. Okay, the position and location of the structure will tell me that there's no fire station that is very close to the place. The nearest fire station will be about 20 or 30 kilometers away. You don't have an alternative source of water. There's no hydrant in those areas. And therefore, when you are prescribing, I mean, when you are telling what the person must put in, is to make sure that the project will be safe, the building or property will be safe until the arrival of the fire service. You remember that when fires occur in some communities within some districts, before the fire service gets there,
it takes time.
It takes time, and they go, every structure is down. It's because if the district assembly planning has taken care that before our fire service will get, because we don't have a fire tender here, maybe we need a hydrant or we need a first aid, we need this. So in planning how the building should be will depend on you, the firefighter. That is why they need a fire permit or a fire certificate or a fire report. They tell them, in case of fire, this is how I can handle it. This is how you can mitigate the fire until the arrival of my people. But if you are very close to us, like headquarters here, and you have police headquarters close to us, and there's fire, and even if you don't have a sprinkler, they know that within the next 3, 4, 5 minutes, the fire service is there. But if you're putting up a very big project, very far away from fire service, far away from water source, and then the inspector, that is why the inspector is trained to have the special eye to think beyond those enclosed, confined, small fires, but see beyond what he can do to save the property for the investor.
I'll come to the role the districts, assemblies and other things plays when it comes to firefighting, because that is a topic on its own. But then let me push you further, sir. This law was passed in 2003.
Yeah.
And before 2003, there were high-rise buildings. I don't know, because personally I can't tell. Some of them did not conform to these fire safety standards. What are we doing about those structures?
You know,
City House comes to mind.
Yes. You see, you know, when the law is passed, every law that is passed, they give you a grace period that upon enforcement or enactment of this law, you have this number of period to comply, to make sure. Like, for instance, when they did the disability law, they made sure that every building or any public place that is accessible within a certain period, they must have means of allowing people with disabilities to get into the building. So just like that principle, the same thing happened in this law. They have given them a period to do it. So it is part of fire service enforcement rules with the fire inspectors to go there and tell them that the law requires that you have this. Why haven't you done it?
So we are 2 decades.
No
the
problem.
law was passed 2 decades ago.
Yes, to play the devil's advocate, the law was passed so many years, but fire service had this detection and warning system just about 5 years ago. So you still have time. You have to go and look at them, tell them that they need to provide, and they will do it. They will plan and budget for it. So like those buildings, you might think they didn't have some of them. Those heritage and those buildings at City House were planned so many years. But you'll be surprised to go there and see that they had a good fire cover. Because of the insurance involved and the properties that are involved. That is why. So those ones are Heritage Tower, this World Trade and those things.
Centers,
they have put all some of the facilities in there. They have them. Some of
them. Dio, what are some of these automatic suppression systems? Can you run us through the brands or types and then how they work?
Okay, thank you. When it comes to automatic suppression system, we have 3 categories. The first one is the water. The second one is the gas, which Deputy mentioned, flooding system. And then we have another type, which is powder. But when it comes to the installation, we have the piping system where you have all the pipes and sensors running through the building. Then we have standalone type of suppression system. Most often you find this system in server rooms, especially if you go to the banks. Outside the detection system that they've put in place, you find a cylinder, a bottle, linked with the detection system mounted in the server room that is serving the same purpose. Then some factories in Accra here, especially on the Spintex Road, they also have the powder suppression system. I know the company, they've not granted me the permission to mention the name, so let me leave that, but it's on the Spintex Road. They have the detector, and then the detector is linked to the cylinder, turned inversely. So as the detector detects, the ball will rupture and then the powder will come out. So these are the types that we have currently in the country.
Okay, so yes, so you can see from the screen. So, sir, if you can explain to us, what are we seeing here?
What we are seeing here, one, you see the blue line. The blue one is a pipeline that supply water from the basement to the various levels. Okay. You can see an outlet with a tap on top. That is where the firefighter will connect. That is where the firefighter will connect the hose, and then he will use the hoses to fight the fire. But with the suppression system, this pipeline are run into the roof. And then you have the pipelines run on the surface of the concrete. Then you drop it. Okay, this one we don't have. What we have here is just indicating the risers.
Yes,
this is purely
the riser. And this is a wet riser.
Yes, so what you have here is indicating how the pipelines are run in the building. Because you can equally use the same thing, but in this case, you run the pipe at the surface of the concrete. Then you drop it with the outlets, the bulbs. Then you press that. That becomes the suppression, automatic suppression. In this case, the bulb comes with a detector. And the bulb, at a certain temperature, the bulb will rupture and the water will gush out.
Okay, so sir, I'm still on you.
Yeah.
When do you recommend a gas suppression system? When do you recommend a powder suppression system? And when do you recommend a water sprinkler system?
Yes. Water sprinkler system, or let me say sprinkler system. When we say sprinkler, basically the medium is water.
Yes.
So it is general for general purposes. But areas that water can cause extensive damage, we recommend the gas or the powder.
See, what I want to add is this. He has said the water, he's talked about the gas and the powder. When you go to Tor, they have a fire tender that does not contain water. It has powder. Because powder has a very effective way of stopping. That area, you cannot use water there. You can only use powder to suppress fire because of the volume of the steam there. So apart from having it in a container and suppressing it in a room, based on what is in there, you can also have a car instead of water filled with powder to do the firefighting within such. Refineries have that kind of facility. But with the ISTT rooms, server rooms and this, you cannot send water. Neither can you send the powder in there. You use the gas. So that's what I'm saying, that you need to have the understanding
of what goes on there.
And then the basic science background. It's really science.
Exactly.
If you don't understand science, you find it difficult to understand why, because it's been proven that when you use the powder, or the powder has effects on the chips that are contained in the computer systems, it will destroy it.
Exactly.
So there are a lot of things that you use it for spare. That's what
yeah. So viewers, when it comes to recommendation for suppression systems, you need to take into consideration what will be done in a particular area. You don't just go into an office and then recommend a water fire extinguisher or something, because we are going to look at what is done or the activities that goes on there. It is based on the activities that goes on there that recommendations are done. So just like my bosses said, if it is a typical office where you have computers and papers, you can't recommend water, neither can you recommend powder, because it will have adverse effects on your systems and other things over there, just like a saver room. So in those areas, we normally recommend gas. And then just like they said, if it is an area where there will be no water problems, and water will be the best medium of extinction, we recommend water. And where we would need to recommend the dry powder, we recommend the dry powder. Okay, so in all this, what role does the fire service play when it comes to fire suppression systems that are done? We being the regulator, do we go there to check the efficacy of the efficiency of those products? What role do we go to play as an institution that goes for inspections? I'd like Deputy to take it.
What you do as a fire inspector, I'm always careful about who goes there. It's a fire inspector who has the authority, being tagged by the chief officer, to be able to enter a premise at a reasonable time to perform certain functions. First, you will look at your fire certificate. Then he will see to it that all other things apart from the firefighting facilities are maintained. That is the fire extinguishers, the detectors that you have in the room, and the means of escapes are not obstructed. So these are some of the things. And then it's the responsibility of the fire service to make sure that those facilities in there are commissioned, because with the fees and charges, there's an amount there that fire service must collect. So when you go and you are satisfied with the facilities there, before you even recommend that the person should be given the fire certificate, then the person must make sure that you commission it based on what you have seen and what is available. So the trained fire inspector is the one who's supposed to do that. Now, if you are going there and you have meaning, you think somebody will obstruct you, then you have to go with a police officer to be able to assist you to do your job. And it's an offense to obstruct the inspector. So as you use the generic term, what is fire service, you have a lot of job to do when it comes to, what do you call it, inspecting those things. And as a fire inspector, you must identify yourself by showing your tag. And whatever information you gather in the course of your duty, you are not supposed to disclose it until it's required for a legal issue. So you don't go to somebody's premises and go and say, this man has this, has that, because of the report you have. You have to keep all those things. And then if it is found that you have published any information or given information about what you are not supposed to do, you, the fire officer, will be interdicted, or finally, if you are found guilty, you can even lose your job. So if you are not an inspector and you enter any premise and go and perform any function, and there's a problem, I don't think you have the chief officer or your commander defending you. So you must be authorized to go there, and whatever you write, and whatever you state or say or notice done by the inspector, the occupant must comply. If you give him a notice period within which he must correct that, he must do that, and you report to your boss, the chief officer who sent you. If he refuses to do that, the chief officer has the authority to revoke. So the inspectors are quite very, very, very powerful. They are the ones that performs fire safety use on behalf of the service. This must be made very clear. So if you are not an inspector, you need to be very careful when you are going to give instructions or going to a building to perform any other thing on behalf of fire safety.
So, Dio, I know you want to add something, but add this to it. Do we go into testing those systems that they have in place? Is it our mandate, or is it part of our work as an institution to test those systems in place as well?
Thank you. Let me add on with the other roles that we play. Before a project is started, the architect is supposed to liaise with Ghana National Fire Service, made a submission. Sometimes at the feasibility stage, they will come out with a concept paper, and that will let us know what they intend to do. Then a design will be put before the service, I mean the safety directorate, will look at it and make some recommendations, because at that stage our input is very critical. Because maybe the architect may recommend, oh, let me only consider rises, and because of space I want to consider dry. By looking at other factors, maybe the nearest fire station and other things, we will rather recommend wet. So these are the things that we will look at the initial stage. And these documents will go back to the designing team. They will look at it again, and sometimes they will invite you for discussion on it. And once that is accepted, a formal application will be done, meaning they will apply for a fire permit. And once it comes to the directorate also has a team that will review this application, because the drawing will not speak, but it is a conceptual report that will speak to it. So we'll look at the conceptual report. Sometimes you may also look at other fire management strategy that you need to consider, because that is key. If it's a high-rise building and you want to consider sprinklers, then we should also know how people will be evacuated in the building. So all these things will be looked at. Then the directorate will recommend to the chief officer for issuance of what? Fire permit.
Okay.
In the permit, there is a clause that says that an inspector shall be assigned to this project. So thereafter, that inspector is supposed to monitor these projects continuously until the project is completed. After completion, the project team needs to come back to fire service for us to inspect the facility that have been installed, and then it is commissioned. Because we do these things because sometimes things that will be installed, especially the accessories, will not be compatible with fire service. So we have to be there, witness all these things, and when we are okay with this accessories and the coupling system, then the facility is commissioned, meaning that now the occupier or the investor can give it out for usage. After commissioning or after the occupancy stage, there is a need for us to also issue fire certificate to ensure that things that have been installed, especially the suppression system, are being serviced. We monitor it daily and to find out if they are functioning well. Then we'll be issuing periodic renewal of the certificates. So these are the things that you do. Then when it comes to testing, yes, the law, I've forgotten the actual section, it says that every 6 months, the service, an inspector will be assigned to inspect these firefighting or automatic suppression systems. So that is our duty.
Okay, thank you. I think, yes.
I want to add this. It was very specific, and I was very grateful to that. You go and inspect, you don't go and test. The installation was not done by you, but whoever did it, you must make sure that the right thing has been done. So never should a firefighter or a fire officer, inspector ever test any installation without the presence of the installer. The installer,
so that is why
if you do that and anything happens, he said you have tampered with the system. But he is the one who installed, and you want this thing to discharge at certain pressure. He should operate it and let you see that it is discharging at that pressure, but not you. Never touch anybody's installation. No inspector touches anybody's installation to test. The installer must be there himself to test. But yours is to inspect that the gauges are reading. These are this, and then the logbook recordings are done. And then you, the fire service, will say this day we have commissioned this thing, and the date is there. So now the inspector who recommends to the chief officer or the head of safety to recommend has put in the crown on that your installation is perfect. So if it fails, the first person to be asked is the one who commissioned it and signed that document. Okay. So if it's the chief officer, they will come and ask, why did it fail? Then he will also go back and look at his logbooks. Was there any recordings to show that there was fault with it? Or what happened before the thing could not work? And then the legal tussle will start from that angle.
Okay, so if I understand, I think my resource people, they've made it clear to us. So as an officer, this educational program is for our publics. And when it comes to our public, it is both the fire service public and then the general public. So I believe we are all learning. We are not supposed to be directly involved in testing of installations. But then what we are supposed to do as personnel is to make sure that anytime you go for an inspection, the installer, as in the service provider who did the installations, must test all those things in your presence, but not you, the personnel, directly going into the testing. Yes, we have Sylvester and Abubakar from Techiman. They are all saying they are watching from the Techiman, and the program is that educative. Yes, in fact, we are going for a short commercial break. We'll be right back.
I came across power safety technology. So I introduced that into our residents, who are more than 4,000. And over the period, they have testified how power safety technology have saved them when the need arises.
Power safety. Safety is our hallmark.
Yeah, viewers, you are welcome back to today's topic. And those of you who want to join us by calling, you can call 050-960-8744, 050-960-8744. Let me take it again, 050-960-8744. You can join by calling and asking questions. If you have contributions or whatever, you can call us. Sir, in all this, I think the main purpose for this is to educate the general public. How is the general public buying into this idea of making sure they get all these suppression systems and other things installed on their premises? What are some of the challenges that the fire service faces when it comes to, especially, people conforming to these standards? Let me go to Dio Afo.
Thank you. In fact, there are a lot of challenges. One is the cost. You know, when we introduced fire safety some years back, where we were asking people to buy into the idea, some expressed, some have some reservations because of the cost, the use, what are the benefits. So these things still persist. Some think that once you have the fire extinguisher, that is all. But the insurance company will also make some demand when your property is involved in fire. So for me, I think that they need to buy in this idea. They should find a way of getting portable fire extinguishers around. When it comes to automatic suppression, that one is capital intensive, and you cannot just install automatic suppression system in any building.
Okay.
Yes, but for the standalone type, that is the gas suppression system, those one you can do that, but that will be done based on risk assessment. You see, once you have the building, there's a need for the fire department to assess the facility to find out if really you need automatic suppression system or not before you do that.
Oh, okay. So when there is this conflict,
Yeah.
when it comes to monetary issues,
Yes.
sometimes you can't challenge. People tend to think they can't afford it. This is a typical Ghanaian attitude, where a Ghanaian can afford to buy over 500,000 cedis of a vehicle. They cannot buy an extinguisher that will cost less than 500 Ghana cedis to protect the edifice. Is it that we are not doing, as an institution, we are not doing much education to educate? Because I remember there was a time Deputy Kwati sent us to one lawyer's place. The lawyer wanted certificate for his guest house. I remember so many years. And then we had to go do a fire audit, an assessment of a sort for. So the lawyer, after educating me, said, oh, okay, so this is to protect my investment. And it's not that I'm buying for the fire service. If that is it, then I think I need that thing in my house. Even then the home fire safety was not there. So this man made sure after the guest house was done, I know the service provider was taken to the house. That one we didn't go, so we could not tell. So is it that we are not doing much of education to sensitize the public on the need for them to rope onto these fire safety measures to help protect their own investment? Or it's just that we are making them feel that they are only wasting money? So I'd like Deputy Kwati to take this one.
The law has been in existence for 20 years plus. And the service has also been existing within that 20 years. And there were conditions as to when this would take actual effect. Within the grace period, there was a lot of education. We went to radio stations, we went to some TV stations, we even put up some of the staff within the safety department. They were going to companies with letters informing them about it. I think that has not been enough. Some will listen to you, some will not listen. Even though we are aware that ignorance of the law is no excuse. If you look at the law and what they are not complying, then we would have arrested most of the people that have not done it. So we need to do more. And some is what we are doing currently, we are doing now. So those who are watching and listening, so I require this. The education must be ongoing. And then you must also go to the premises and talk to the people. It's not that you don't want to have any work doing, but it is because of their investment. People are doing it because now insurance requires that you must have, because the insurance will pay money, but you pay a certain amount of premium. Depending on the fire cover you have, reduce your premium. Are you getting me? So it is important that the education goes on and on and on and on. Now you are lucky you have this WhatsApp on social media in the hand. So as you now have a TV station, which we never thought 20 years ago we would have a TV station, but now we have it. So you should have the safety department come in with maybe a platform or something that can allow them. Because when you go to AGI, Ghana Industrial, AIG, or what do you call it? Ghana Institute of Industries. You can have, if you go to Register General, you can have access to all the companies you send them text messages, few questions. Do you have a fire certificate? If you don't have this, that. So develop, use the IT.
I know the PR department, we've started something.
Yes, do the
safety tidbits.
You send the messages to them. Oh, we want to write you or want to come and see your fire certificate. Do those things. Now technology is the order of the day. So move. Instead of sending people, I know the capacity is a problem, you don't have the personnel. When we were there, we never had it, but we were able to do something. So now use the technology to get closer to the education, and they'll comply with it.
I said, let me veer. Okay, come in if you want.
That we are doing our best, but there's room for improvement. I quite remember that was 2020. I was then in Tema. Every Tuesday and Thursday, my team will move into the community, especially community one. We'll move to every household. There's a form that will ask you to complete. We'll ask you, are you using gas? Say yes. Is the regulator on or not? Some it is not there, but others yes. Then we'll ask you to remove. Once you are not in, you are not using the gas. Others, the iron, though it was not in use, it is plugged. So we're doing this education. So I would say that we are doing that. Just that we need to.
We can do more.
We can do better.
There's room for more improvement.
Yes.
Okay. Sir, when in your quest to handle the high-rise buildings and how we find them, you brought in the role of the district assemblies. When it comes to firefighting, what is the role of the district assemblies in firefighting itself? Because we know, I'll be coming to those RESEC meetings and other things, and the role, what you are supposed to, but let's look at the role of the district assembly when it comes to firefighting within their districts.
You see, the district planning committee, or I think so, those who, the special who give approval, fire service is a member, and the district chief executive is the chairman, and the fire officer there represents the Ghana National Fire Service at that particular region. So before they approve of any project, they will ask for the input or the eye of the fire officer in that particular area. Now, what you do is you advise on fire issues, but the permit that is given for construction doesn't come from fire service. There's difference between a fire certificate and a fire permit and a building permit. Usually people will say, oh, I have a permit from fire service, I had permit from EPA, and therefore, no. Ours are auxiliary supporting the document that you are. Whoever brought that and was approved by the fire officer is what he's using to mitigate if there's a fire. Then the EPA will also give in measures that will not help pollute the environment. People from maybe roads, urban roads, will also see what will be the traffic control. So everybody has specific function that they are performing. And then they all look at it. The assembly say, we are satisfied, and therefore we are giving you a building to do what? Construct. So the building standing there is not fire service who are giving you permission to construct. It's the assembly that has. Now, when we go further in our law, it says that whoever has been refused a fire certificate or in terms of a permit because of this thing, will have to make a complaint to the district assembly, which is that committee, district fire committee, is chaired by the district chief executive. So the problem goes back to the same person. So fire service has a limited role when it comes to construction, but when it comes to fire issues, the district chief executive will always seek the way. That is why when we refuse to issue the fire certificate from here, and then the complaint will go straight to the district fire committee to do the complaint, and to be carried up and find why you didn't issue the fire certificate. So we have a coordinating and a collaboration role that we play with them.
So let me ask a follow-up question. So when the fire permit, we refuse to issue the fire permit.
Yes.
And the district assembly comes back to ask, what is the, I mean, how do we handle that issue?
The district, you are not refusing the district assembly the fire certificate.
No, you are refusing the client. And then the client
goes to make complaints then to be investigated, because within that community, the chief executive is the chairman. I have not seen any of this committee. My time we never formed, but I'm sure maybe now you may have. I don't. I stand for correction. He's the member. You have the person for the fire service. You have people from, I think, NADMO, EPA. You have even the traditional head. Yes, must be part of it. The land committee, the traditional. And then at least two people, one of which must be a woman. One must be a woman. The constitution of that particular, the members is there. So that committee is very, very powerful at the district, and they are responsible for fire implementation programs. if you refuse, or if anybody has a complaint about fire issues, that committee is the one that they have to go relating to fire safety.
Sir,
I'll give you an example. Somebody called me, one of my mates called me and said a neighbor is just always burning indiscriminately around, and he thinks the fire service should have a law that regulates burning of bush. I mean, not bush. They are refuse in their houses. So I told him, it's unfortunate we don't have anything like that. But what we have is about a bushfire law, which requires that before you burn a bush, you need the fire volunteers alongside with the fire service to do that. But when it comes to burning this in the house, then you require an EPA, or you should go to the assembly for them to get it. So anything that relates to fire, people think is the fire service responsibility. We have a restricted rule by law that we go by. It's not everything that is fire. That's another clarification.
If there's a fireman living in an area, and the fireman realizes that maybe this particular household, they've been burning their refuse instead of giving it out to those waste companies, they've been burning, and you realize that burning of that refuse can lead to probably fire outbreak within the area, because there are flying ambers and other things they can result. What is the rule? What do you think the fireman is supposed to do?
Yes, the fireman will basically advise that what he's doing is a threat to the community. Then he goes further to tell the districts. Then they'll bring an EPA guy, because that is polluting the environment. Are you getting me?
Yes, sir.
You are to manage undesired fires.
Okay.
Fires that are destructive, and they are going to buildings and this. So you have a role to play. But if the person is burning his refuse in his own house and he can control it, it's even though it's giving a problem to the environment, it's a controlled fire. Exactly. I hope you understand. I can decide to burn. But I can decide to burn my own refuse and put a extinguisher behind it. Are you get what I'm saying? Exactly. I'm controlling it. But the environment is where the problem is. So everybody must be in its line. Right. Yes, so we don't confuse our
there's another issue. You want to add to?
You see, with the role of the district assembly, aside the legal requirement, they also help us in directing proponents to us. Some people think that you can build without fire service, especially when it comes to public buildings. So once you send...
I think it is in line with the question I wanted to ask you.
Okay,
then so let me chip in and hear you. So when the fire service issues the permit,
yes,
what goes into the permit? And how does the district also handle the permit that the fire service issues? Because, in fact, I want to go on a particular area. But I want you to answer this one first, so that we can also look at, because there are a lot of how do we call it, filling stations, these gas and then petrol filling stations springing up in our neighborhood. I think the last time we even touched on the zoning status and other things, and there are a whole lot of issues about that. So, but let's look at what the permits does, and then we'll come to that one.
And or specifics.
Oh, well, you can.
You just mentioned the zoning status.
No, let's put the zoning status aside. I want to see how the district also handles the permit that comes from the fire service.
Okay. Granted, the application has been made to Ghana National Fire Service, where we look at the means of escape, we look at the firefighting equipment, we look at the water situation, we look at the road condition, and the permit is issued. This application or the permit issued will be attached to the will be attached to the burden plans that will be submitted to the assembly. The assembly will take delivery of these applications, and then there's a committee that will sit on it, looking at the provisions that are...
That committee, does it include the fire officer?
Yes. So normally the district engineer is the chair. They will have other members who will come from EPA, fire service, land commission, road safety, the road commission. Also, those people are part of it. If you look at the law, it's outlined, the District Assembly Act also, it outlined those members who should be on it. And the fire service is co-opted into it. So once the documents are received, a committee will look at it. They will be looking at fire service document. They will look at the engineering document in terms of the soil and soil report and all those things.
Those geometric.
Everything. Assembly will look at it. But when it comes to fire service, they will ask fire service personnel over there to go through, because he is an expert in that and is the proponent meeting the requirement of fire service. So the officer there role is to look at the report, even though it has been approved by the service, he has to confirm that those things that have been stated are accurate. And then the assembly, based on those recommendations from the committee, this application will be forwarded to the special planning committee, and then they will give an approval to that.
Okay, so you can still. I think Deputy Kwati would like to add something to it.
I was looking at just the members that constitute the district fire complaint committee. You see, the structure has been made in such a way the district has a problem. He cannot handle it. He will send it to the regional level, which is we have a regional fire advisory committee before it comes up to the chief, but then they will refer it to the technical advisory committee. So there's a structures that are there. So whatever relates to fire, because a fire permit results into a fire certificate. So if I refuse you a fire permit, inadvertently I've refused you an initial fire permit. So if your fire report is accepted at the district level and is put into the planning committee, it means fire service has already in principle approved your future fire certificate for your building. Then it goes. But then they are depending on the fire as an expert. Your input in there is that because you approved what has been given by your regional commander, has signed the permit, and therefore they've submitted it on behalf of the fire service, and it has been approved. And then they will make sure that the fire cover you have stated in that report will be implemented whilst under construction. So that is it.
Yeah, so let me talk about this, the permit and the certificate. I believe the permit is either a structure that is here to be contracted or probably under construction. But if we should go strictly by the law, it should be a project that is yet to be constructed. But this is an instance where mostly people bypass all these things. They are able to complete the structure before they come for fire certification.
Yes.
When it happens like this, what do we do? Because if you just walked us through the process, but here somebody probably through power play or something may have gone through the back door, built the edifice and other things, and then come up and say, oh, okay, I now want to start work, so I want to come for the fire certificate. Okay, what is the process? What does the district do? Because we see a lot of buildings written what? Stop work, produce permit, and all those things. What happens to those ones too?
Okay. You see, initially I said there's that collaboration between us, the service, and then the district and other stakeholders. So once you identify the problem, you draw the attention of the committee will take it up. And within, if I say within fire service, we have to go back to the facility. If it's already completed, we have to do a new assessment of the place. I'll give you one example. That is at the, this place, Airport City. They put up the structure. I think it's about 4 or 5 story. They've installed the smoke detectors, but unfortunately, means of escape was a problem. So I have to ask them to break, because the law permits us to break. So I ask them, they have to break the wall, create an opening for it before we issue the certificate. So what it means is that if the structure is already there, they did not go through the process, it will cost them additional money to do the right thing. Unless maybe you don't have a fire officer or a safety officer who will insist that do the right thing. But if you want the right thing to be done, meaning that the developer has to do the necessary by breaking or adding on some safety measure that will enhance movement or improve life in that structure.
Okay, Deputy Kwati.
So see, you mentioned 2. The building is under construction. They have written on it, produce permits. It means the building in principle of papers is sick, isn't it?
Exactly.
So definitely he has to go through the process. They will ask him, do you have a fire permit? No. So he will come back and perform that function. And then he will collect all the other things. When he meets that requirements, then they will either go and clean or he continues the structure. If on the blind side of all these writings and the building is there, it cuts up with the fire service law that it's an existing structure. Are you getting me? So now that it's existing and is coming to operate, then he goes to meet another header that if you don't have this fire certificate, you can also not operate at the place. Then he will come back to you. So in the long run, it's safer to do it
from
yes,
the initial stage.
Because and the fees for existing and the
proposal
are the same. So you run and you come and meet, or you pay and you don't pay later. So the law has taken care of. So, but the issue is that so long as it's written stop work, there's a problem with it. Okay. Then they will start the process. So they will definitely come back to the fire service.
Yes, I would not.
Prohibition of the use of the premises.
Yeah.
So in the wisdom of the chief was, he thinks that that structure is not fit for use. Who prohibits the use of the place?
Okay. And apart from that, you see, there are areas that even if the building is existing, and you are doing partition or you are changing the use and partitioning the area, you need an approval. There are so many things. Even if yes, you see, there's a lot. Even if I have a factory and I'm changing the arrangements in the factory, I have to come to the fire service to get, because the certificate that has been given to you is based on the arrangements you wrote.
On the conformity of the...
Yes.
Exactly.
You see, anything that does not match with what has been approved to give you the certificate becomes a fake document. So there are a lot of things. Fire service has a lot of functions to do. If he's changing everything, he's making additions, he's making alterations, he must come for the approval before he does that. And when he's in place too, he must make sure he complies to what it is.
Sir,
especially with the high-rise buildings, the trend now is a open space structure. You see, at the initial stage, the application that comes to fire service and open space, so we approve of that. The moment you give out that facility, that level, that space to a tenant, and there are divisions, you need to come to fire service, because it will affect the fire safety strategy. That
okay. Thank you.
Recommended.
But in fact, time is fast spent. But let me please say, I know the fire service is still in an expansion. We are expanding to make sure we cover all districts and other things. I remember when the current administrator, the current president, talked about one district, one factory. We also talked about what? One district, one fire station, in order to provide cover for those factories. But say, in districts where we do not have fire service there, what are the districts supposed to do? If we don't have a fire station within a particular district, well, how do you advise those districts, especially the district chief executives and other things? What should they do? Because in this circumstance, response time will go far, because a vehicle will probably have to come from another district into their district. So what advice would you give to those districts?
You know, some districts on their own decides to build a fire station because they know the importance, or whoever is the chief executive, or sometimes the chiefs within that area with their background and see fire as a priority. They will prefer even to have a fire station than to have a police post.
Okay.
So it depends on the priority.
So they put safety ahead of...
It depends on what the people wants
to
do in the area. So, but you see, planning of fire, like in other jurisdictions, I must say, in Europe, America and Western, fire service is not a national issue.
Yes.
Yeah. It is done at the those districts, and they have their own. They employ their own people. They provide the facilities and the money for the area. So if you're a district chief executive of a mayor of an area and you don't have a fire station, you don't have a police station, then you can't help
that is
place.
why DS is the fire brigade and other things. Okay.
But here in Ghana,
time will not permit us. So, you want to chip in something else?
Yes, but you see, you just mentioned about the districts. I'll give you a typical example. Adenta Fire Station is served 2 districts. Oh, yes, that is Ghana East, and then Adenta East South. So what it means is that the district fire officer over there knows that he has a responsibility. So quickly, once it's posted to the community, he tried to liaise with these district assemblies so that he knows his role and how best he can help mitigate outbreaks. So it is happening. Practically, we have a fire station that serve our 2 or 3 district assemblies.
Thank you. In fact, we want to thank our resource people for making it, for coming over to bless us with all this knowledge. In fact, this is how time will permit. This is how far time will permit us, and we want to draw the curtains on today's program. But we have leading farmer Nuruddin Akuba Akwete from FACTS. It is your birthday. We want to wish you. We say happy birthday to you, and may God bless your new age. Yes, my name is Station Officer 1 Michael Waltokai, and I've been sitting in for ADO 1 Juan Aji Jamesi. It's likely she may be on your screens by next week. Today's topic, we've dealt with it. Next week, we'll be looking at the fire certificate and what it entails. Until then, stay tuned. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Officers and serving officers, and once they tried and they couldn't, this is where we are. After Akisama, baby, I know from me. Let me one at the